Hi, my name is Andrew McCombie, and I've had this car for about 16 years. This is my 1976 Jensen GT.
My name's Mike Boyle. This is my 1997 Lotus Esprit V8.
And this is my 1959 fully restored TR3A, which I've actually owned for 33 years.
Hi folks, and welcome to Centre Lane. Today I'm here with a very special British car club called the LAM. Now LAM stands for Langley Area Mostly British Car Club, and I'm here with John Walkden, who's the club president. John, could you tell me a little bit about your club and how it got started?
We got together in 2002. At the time I was the president of the Rover Club. Victor was involved with the Triumph Club, and we didn't really like what we saw in clubs at the time, so we got a bunch of people and tried to fly under the radar, so to speak, but as you can tell, that didn't really happen.
Now, the club is Langley Area Mostly British. Explain the mostly British part.
Well, at the time, Kathy Hahn, who was another founding member, had a El Camino, and she had that car for quite a while. And I've always liked American cars too, so we won't turn anybody away if you've got an American car. So we've got Rovers, Jags, MGs, Triumph. Basically, pretty much every British car ever made, we've had in the club, or at least at one time or another.
I'm going to look at some of these cars. Which one is yours?
Well, mine is the red Rover, standing behind us here, and I've had that car for 22 years. My dad had one when I was a kid. I learned to drive a standard transmission, his Rover, so I've always liked them.
It's a certain crowd that likes the British cars. We're not seeing a lot of young people in these older cars, but there certainly is a real loyal following, isn't there?
There is, and I think it's because most of us in our generation grew up with British cars.
Well, and I also guess back in the 70s, like when I was young, they were kind of the go-to sports car for a lot of young guys because they were affordable and cool and a lot of convertibles and that sort of thing, right?
Exactly, yeah. There's, like I said, I mean, most starving college kids, you had MGBs and stuff like that. So yeah, that was their daily driver back in the 70s and 60s.
All right, well, let's take a look at your car.
All right. It's a 1972 Rover 2000, and it's an ex-Hong Kong car. I found it on Craigslist and bought it off the second owner of the car, and it was right-hand drive when I bought it. I've converted it over, and I'm actually the third owner, but it was a car that the previous owner got from his grandfather as a graduation present.
Converting a car from right-hand drive to left-hand drive, that must be quite a project.
It wasn't as difficult as you think. Most British cars were all designed to be either left-hand drive or right-hand drive, and so all I had to do was find a donor car, move some stuff over, and it basically just bolted in, other than the fact that the wiring isn't either or, so I had to do a lot of splicing, but it worked out.
So the Rover's a bit of an unusual car. Tell me the reason why you were attracted to this particular car.
Well, when I was 17, 18 years old, my father had one, and I learned to drive the standard transmission, his Rover, and I've always liked them. They're different. They built cars long before they built Land Rovers, which people don't understand, but for a car that came out in 1963, they're probably the most technologically advanced car at the time.
I see we got SU carbs in here. What size of an engine is this?
It's a 2.2 liter. And it's the upgraded version from the original 2-liter. It's an overhead cam and single master cylinder brakes and so on like that.
This is Carol Borgens, and Carol has this beautiful XJS. Carol, tell me a little bit about this car. And you said that there's a delineation between the XJS and the XJ-S. Can you explain that to me?
The difference between the XJ-S and the XJS is a slight change in the body styling referred to as a facelift, and it happened in 1992. There was an interesting time when these cars weren't selling because they were high performance, two-seat sports, very high insurance premiums. And Jaguar said, we can fix this. And they did a slight change to the body styling, changed the interior a little bit, put two not useful jump seats in the back, and called it a sedan. And it lowered the insurance premium significantly, and sales rose again. The difference really is in the rear body styling. If you look at the rear of this one, the tail lights have a sloping down feature at the outer corners, and they gave it a facelift, and they stayed straight and wrapped around the body a little bit. Other than that, the difference is in the interior. And they also gave the S a 6-cylinder. Boo.
No, 12 is much better.
This old girl is called the Diva, and the reason she's called the Diva is because she has been the top winning Jaguar in Concours d'Elegance across North America in the last 7 years. So she's kind of a diva, you know. She goes out on sunny days and to shows. And it's all original. I'm the third owner. It came in through New Jersey, and it went to Arizona for the first owner. The second owner was in Woodinville, Washington, a Jaguar mechanic, and I purchased it from him about 7 years ago.
Obviously, you love these cars. Tell me a little bit about why you like them so much.
When Sir William Lyons was designing Jaguars many years ago, he had three things in mind that they must have. One is grace, the other is space, and the third is pace. So they have to look good, go fast, and be functional as well. They are lovely to drive. This one, this V12, is just a blast. I have a big saloon at home, which is my daily driver, the 98. Comfortable, big, good-looking head turner. They can do it all for you. If you want to be a sedate driver, you may. If you want to put your foot in it, they're ready.
This is Linda Spooler, and Linda has this beautiful Triumph Mayflower. Very unusual car. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
It is a 1950 Triumph Mayflower made for the North American market because, as you see, it is a left-hand drive. All the other Mayflowers for England are on the right-hand drive. But this was for the North American market to hopefully up the sales for the family car in 1950.
I have to admit, I've never seen one of these. Are they very rare at this point?
It's rare for North America. I think this is the only one on the West Coast except for one in San Diego area. So far, this is the only one on the West Coast that I know of. We bought it from KMS Tools in Coquitlam. It was used by KMS to teach body paneling and paint. When we saw it, we said, okay, well, let's see if it's for sale. And he finally did relent and sell it in 2012. It took 2 years. My husband tore everything down to the bones and restored it to this.
So he's done a beautiful job of it. I want to see both the engine and the interior of this car. It's so gorgeous. So this car fits you pretty well, doesn't it?
It does. It's actually back so that my husband, when he drove it, could fit. And then when I drive it, we actually had to move the rails so I could get close enough to reach the clutch, because right now I can't reach the clutch. To start it, you put the key in, and you actually have to pull this and put your foot on the gas to actually start it. There's no sort of key ignition like we do in the beginning.
Yeah.
This is first, and then you go in and up for second, and then down for third.
And is this car pretty comfortable to drive in?
It is very comfortable. When we got the upholstery redone, we decided we wanted the leather, so the price of it, this part is leather, but all the rest is actually vinyl, but it still has that little bit of leather smell when you get in. And because it's only a two-door, you do have to push the seats back, and you have to sort of climb in ungracefully to the back seat. One added feature that we did is that we found an original Mayflower owner, and he actually had a Rolls Ghost, I think it was called, and he had a spare tray, so he gave it to us and we've implemented it. So when we are on the road, the back seat can have a sense of a Rolls-Royce feel. Here's the turn signals. If you want to turn right, you turn it to the right and the trafficators come up on the side. And then when you want to turn it off, you turn it back to the center and the trafficators come down.
The car itself was slotted between the MG and the big Heelys, so it was its own little market. It was a very heavy duty, good in rallies and races, and went to Le Mans. Triumph in 1959 was the first production passenger car in the world to have disc brakes. Triumph and Jensen were the first vehicles to have disc brakes. So that's a pretty cool safety device.
I've had this car about 15, 16 years, and I got it off an old guy who was the original owner of it. He bought it in 1956. I've been fixing it up ever since. It's a nice little car, and with the Lamb Club, we get to go on drives and wineries and in parades. The engine number on it is the 620th engine that was built. There's a unique feature about this car. They had a new young engineer, and he totally redesigned the car. It's got a small grille on the front, and inside there's two pipes. One 4-inch pipe goes right up to give the carburetors fresh air, and the other one goes on the right-hand side of the car and goes into the heater core.